The Voxcaster crackled with interference as Marcus Cole adjusted the frequency. 3 days since the first bioships had been detected at the system's edge. 3 days of preparation, laying traps, mining approaches, turning the jungle itself into a weapon. The Tyrannid splinter fleet had launched its vanguard organisms 12 hours ago. Now the real fight would begin. Marcus had survived his whole life on Catachan, the galaxy's most lethal death world. The Tyrannids thought they could consume his world. They would learn why even space marines spoke of Catachan with respect. The regiment had deployed across a 50-kilometer front, using the jungle's natural killing grounds to channel the Xenos' advance. Colonel Straken himself had planned the defense, the old bastard's augmetic arm gleaming as he pointed out positions on the hololith. "The bugs think they're the apex predators," he'd growled. "Time to show them they're just tourists in our jungle." Marcus's platoon held Sector 7, a nightmare of ravines and toxic swamps that had claimed more lives than any enemy action. 47 men, each worth 10 conventional guardsmen in jungle warfare. They'd spent 2 days preparing, setting traps that would have made their ancestors proud. Spike pits laced with Catachan devil venom. Strangler mines that would release clouds of paralytic spores. Deadfalls rigged with white phosphorus charges. Private Thomas spotted them first. Movement 200 meters. Lots of it. Marcus raised his magnoculars. Hormagaunts, the Tyrannid shock troops moving through the undergrowth. Behind them, larger forms. Termagants with their bioweapons, warriors directing the swarm. A probing attack, testing their defenses. He smiled. "Let them come. Hold fire until they hit the first markers," he ordered. The men waited with the patience of born predators. The Hormagaunts surged forward, their scything talons gleaming. 50 meters, 40, 30. The first wave hit the concealed pits and disappeared with surprised shrieks. Others pressed on, driven by the hive mind's will. "Fire!" 47 Lars rifles spoke as one. The concentrated volleys scythed through the packed aliens, disciplined fire picking off synapse creatures first. Without the warriors' guidance, the lesser forms faltered, their coordination breaking down. Then the secondary traps activated. Mines detonated, hurling razor-sharp plant matter coated in neurotoxins. Trees rigged with det cord fell, crushing aliens beneath tons of hardwood. The Tyrannids recoiled, leaving dozens of corpses. But Marcus knew this was just the beginning. The hive mind was learning, processing their defenses. The next attack would be stronger. He keyed his Vox. "All positions report." Sector 3 holding, killed about 40. Private Jensen got a warrior with his longlars. Sector 5 here, heavy contact but managing. Those spine mines worked perfect. Sector 9, we need ammunition resupply soon. The bugs are piling their dead to cross the ravine. Marcus processed the reports. The line was holding, but ammunition would become critical. Unlike conventional warfare, they couldn't scavenge from the enemy. The jungle would have to do more of the killing. The second wave came at dusk. Catachan's bioluminescent flora began its nightly display, casting shifting shadows that made target acquisition difficult. The Tyrannids used the cover, lictors and gene stealers infiltrating through the gaps. But the Catachans had fought in this jungle since childhood. They knew every shadow, every sound. Corporal James spotted the first lictor, its chameleonic skin almost perfect against the mottled bark. His shotgun loaded with special rounds, Catachan hunting loads packed with toxins that would overwhelm even Tyrannid physiology. The creature died thrashing, its nervous system in revolt. More lictors revealed themselves, forced to attack before achieving optimal positions. The fighting turned close and brutal. Marcus drew his Catachan fang, the 18-inch blade singing as it parted chitin. A gene stealer lunged from the shadows, 4 arms reaching. He pivoted, letting its momentum carry it past, then drove the knife between its vertebrae. Private Chen proved why Catachans started training with blades before they could properly walk. Armed with paired fighting knives, he carved through a pack of hormagaunts like a blender. When a warrior tried to flank him, Chen threw one knife into its primary brain, then closed to finish it with the other. The melee lasted 3 minutes of pure violence. When it ended, 8 Catachans were down, 5 dead, 3 wounded but mobile. The tyrannid corpses carpeted the jungle floor, already being consumed by local flora. Catachan wasted nothing, not even alien biomass. "They're pulling back," Thomas reported, watching through a scope. "Reforming beyond the swamp." Marcus used the respite to reorganize. Ammunition was redistributed, wounded treated with combat drugs that would keep them fighting. The dead were stripped of supplies, their knives passed to comrades. No burial detail. The jungle would claim them as it claimed everything else. The Vox sparked. "This is Colonel Strachan to all units. The Navy reports bioships moving to launch more organisms. Estimated 6 hours before the next wave. Make ready, 6 hours." Marcus set his men to improving positions, laying new traps, creating fallback routes. The tyrannids might adapt, but so could humans. Especially humans who'd grown up on a world that killed the weak. Private Wilson, the platoon's demolitions expert, rigged a masterpiece. Using captured bioacid from tyrannid corpses, he created mines that would eat through chitin like thermite through steel. Combined with the local spore fungus, the resulting clouds would create dead zones even tyrannids couldn't cross without massive casualties. 3 hours in, the jungle itself joined the war. A pack of Catachan devils, the apex predators that gave the planet its reputation, smelled the alien blood and came investigating. Marcus watched through magnoculars as the truck-sized creatures encountered a tyrannid patrol. The battle was brief and vicious. The devil's hide proved resistant to bioweapons, while their claws and teeth parted tyrannid armor with ease. When it ended, both sides had suffered casualties, but the devils dragged their prizes deeper into the jungle. Even Catachan's wildlife rejected the invaders. The third wave announced itself with a psychic pressure that made teeth ache. Zoanthropes, floating brain creatures that weaponized the warp itself. Behind them, the ground shook with heavy footfalls. Carnifexes, living tanks bred for siege warfare. This was no probe. This was a hammer blow intended to shatter their lines. "Heavy weapons free," Marcus ordered. The platoon's single lascannon spoke, its beam coring through a carnifex's skull. The creature took 3 more steps before its nervous system realized it was dead. Missile launchers added their voices, crack warheads detonating against thick armor. But the carnifexes kept coming, biocannons spraying acid that dissolved cover and flesh alike. The zoanthropes raised psychic shields, protecting the advance from direct fire. Marcus watched a missile detonate harmlessly against invisible barriers, but the Catachans had fought psychers before. Wilson triggered his special surprise. A null field generator scavenged from a destroyed Inquisition transport years ago. The device only worked for minutes before burning out, but those minutes counted. The psychic shields collapsed. Concentrated Lars fire dropped 2 zoanthropes before they could adapt. Without their protection, the carnifexes became vulnerable. Marcus watched James put a crack grenade into one's knee joint, bringing the massive creature down for them to finish off. But the tyrannids pressed on, their numbers seemingly endless. A carnifex broke through Sector 5's line, its massive claws tearing through defenders like paper. Marcus made the hard choice, calling in danger-close artillery from the regimental batteries. The shells screamed in, high explosive and white phosphorus falling violently. Some Catachans died in the barrage. They'd known the risks. Night fell properly, but the battle continued. The jungle's bioluminescence mixed with the flash of Lars fire and burning promethium to create a hellscape of shifting light and shadow. Marcus had lost count of how many power packs he'd expended, how many times he'd wet his blade with alien blood. His men fought with the desperate efficiency of those who knew retreat meant extinction. In Sector 9, Sergeant Patterson earned a posthumous Medal of Honor by holding a breach single-handed for 6 minutes, a heavy flamer in each hand, until reinforcements arrived. The fourth wave brought warriors in force, synapse creatures to coordinate the swarm with lethal precision. But the Catachans had their own coordination, born of training and trust. Squad-level Vox networks let them respond instantly to threats, shifting fire to support pressed positions. When Sector 3 nearly broke, Marcus led half his platoon in a flanking attack that rolled up the Tyranid advance, knives and flamers working in terrible harmony. Dawn came slowly, filtered through smoke and spore clouds. The jungle floor was carpeted with alien dead, so thick in places that new waves had to climb over their predecessors. Catachan fungi and plants already grew from the corpses, breaking down alien proteins into nutrients. Marcus took stock. 19 men left from his original 47, everyone wounded to some degree, held together by combat drugs and determination. But they'd held. The Vox confirmed similar stories across the line. The regiment had paid in blood, but the Tyranid advance had been stopped cold. Colonel Straken's voice crackled over the command frequency. "Outstanding work, you magnificent bastards. Navy reports the bioships are pulling back, recovering their organisms. We've bloodied their nose proper. Estimated 12,000 confirmed kills, even for Catachans. That's a good day's work." But Marcus knew this was temporary. The Tyranids would return, adapt, overcome. That was their nature. He set his reduced platoon to rebuilding defenses, treating wounds, preparing for the next assault. In the distance, smoke pillars marked where other platoons burned Tyranid corpses too damaged for the jungle to quickly consume. Private Chen, promoted to corporal to fill the gaps, brought Marcus a report. "Ammunition's critical. Maybe one more heavy assault before we're down to knives." Marcus nodded. He'd already been thinking about that. Set the men to making traditional weapons. Spears, pit traps, anything that doesn't need power packs. The jungle's our ammunition now. The day passed in tense preparation. Scouts reported Tyranid organisms massing beyond effective engagement range, but not advancing. The hive mind was thinking, processing, adapting. When they came again, it would be with new tactics, new organisms bred specifically to counter Catachan warfare. That night, Marcus dreamed of his grandfather, who'd fought orcs during the Armageddon Wars. The old man had lived to 90, unheard of for a Catachan, and died in his sleep with a knife in hand. "The jungle doesn't care what you are," he'd said. "Only that you're strong enough to survive another day. Be the jungle, boy. Be death itself." The fifth assault came with the dawn, and it was different. The Tyranids had adapted. Instead of mass charges, they sent raveners underground, gargoyles through the canopy, coordinated strikes to bypass prepared defenses. But the Catachans adapted too. Seismic charges collapsed tunnels on the raveners. Filtered promethium spray ignited the canopy, turning gargoyle swarms into falling meteors. In Sector 7, Marcus faced a new horror. A Tyranid warrior, but changed, adapted. Its claws dripped with toxins. Its carapace had thickened against Lars fire. The hive mind had been busy during the night, breeding specialist organisms from consumed Catachan genetic material. The adapted warrior was faster than its predecessors, strong enough to tear through cover like tissue. It killed Private Hansen with contemptuous ease, shrugging off Lars fire that should have dropped it. Marcus engaged with his knife, using every trick 2 decades of survival had taught him. The creature anticipated his moves, its stolen genetic memories warning of Catachan combat techniques. But Marcus had something the hive mind couldn't steal or replicate. He had hate. Pure, distilled hatred for anything that threatened his world. He took wounds, claws opening his flesh, toxins burning through his system. His augmented physiology, built by generations of Catachan evolution, fought back. Where the warrior expected him to weaken, he pressed harder. Where it expected him to fall, he stood. The Catachan Fang found a gap in the armor, punched through, twisted. The warrior screamed, a sound that had nothing to do with vocal cords and everything to do with psychic anguish. Marcus drove the blade deeper, sawing through alien organs until the creature collapsed. He stood over it, breathing hard, blood running from a dozen wounds. Around him, his men finished their own battles with the adapted organisms. "Sergeant, you need medical attention," Chen said, but Marcus waved him off. Catachans who couldn't handle a little poison didn't live to adulthood. The fifth wave broke like the others, but at higher cost. The adapted organisms had taken their toll. Across the regiment, casualty reports climbed. But still they held. Still the jungle consumed the alien dead. Still Catachan rejected its would-be conquerors. Days blended together. Attack, defend, rebuild. The Tyranids tried every strategy their alien intelligence could devise. Massed assaults, infiltration, psychological warfare. The Catachans met each with stubborn refusal to yield. When ammunition ran low, they fought with blades. When blades broke, they used rocks, fists, teeth. When a lictor killed Sergeant Davies in Sector 3, his men beat it to death with its own severed limbs. The seventh day brought unexpected relief. Thunder hawks roared overhead, bearing the colors of the space wolves. The Astartes had come, drawn by astropathic calls for aid. Marcus watched the drop pods slam into Tyranid positions, disgorging gene-forged killers who tore through the aliens with bolt and blade. But even space marines respected what the Catachans had done, holding a splinter fleet with nothing but Lars rifles and determination. The Space Wolf captain, a grizzled veteran named Bjorn Ironson, sought out Colonel Straken. Marcus was close enough to hear the exchange. 7 days against a splinter fleet with just one regiment. That's impressive, even for Catachans. Straken spat a stream of obscura juice. We're not done yet, my lord, just getting warmed up. Your boys are welcome to join the party, but this is our jungle, our fight. The combined forces pushed back, driving the Tyranids to their landing zones. Bioships descended to recover organisms, but many were left behind, the jungle already claiming them. The hive mind had learned a less paid for in biomass and broken strategies. This world would cost more to consume than it would yield. The final battle came at the Tyranid landing site, a cleared zone where biopods had delivered the invasion force. Warriors formed defensive lines, while smaller organisms were loaded into recovery pods. The hive mind was cutting its losses. Marcus led his platoon, down to 13 men now, in the final assault. Beside them, space wolves howled war cries and revved chainswords. But it was the Catachans who reached the biopods first, demolition charges turning the organic vessels into burning meat. Every pod destroyed meant fewer organisms recovered, less biomass for the hive fleet. A hive tyrant emerged from the largest pod, a general making a last stand. It carved through space wolves and Catachans alike, bone swords reaping a terrible toll. Marcus watched it gut Brother Sven. The Space Marine's enhanced physiology meaning nothing against such weapons. Colonel Straken himself engaged it, his augmetic arm matching the creature's strength for strength, while his other hand emptied a plasma pistol into its skull. The tyrant fell, and with it, the last coordination of the ground forces. Leaderless organisms milled in confusion before base instincts sent them fleeing into the jungle. There, Catachan itself would finish what the regiment had started. Plants, predators, and microscopic organisms would break down the aliens, denying even their corpses to the hive fleet. The bioships lifted off, leaving contrails of organic vapor. The invasion had failed. The splinter fleet would report to the hive mind that Catachan was a hardpoint. There were easier targets among the million worlds of the Imperium. Marcus stood among the wreckage, counting his survivors, 13 men from 47. Across the regiment, similar math played out. But they'd won. A splinter fleet driven off, thousands of Tyranids dead, the jungle itself turned into a weapon. Colonel Straken gathered the survivors. His augmetic arm was damaged, sparking occasionally, but his organic eye gleamed with fierce pride. You beautiful bastards did it. Held the line against bugs that eat whole worlds for breakfast. The Departamento Munitorum will write this off as a minor skirmish, but we know better. We know what we did here. The space wolves departed after 3 days, their captain leaving behind a wolf pelt for Straken. You fight like Fenrisians, Bjorn had said, highest praise from the sons of Rus. The Catachans buried their dead in the jungle, knowing the planet would transform them into nutrients for the next generation. No monuments, no markers. Catachan remembered its own. 2 weeks later, reinforcements arrived. Fresh-faced recruits from the Schola Progenium, eager to prove themselves worthy of the Catachan name. Marcus, promoted to lieutenant for his actions, watched them struggle through their first day. The jungle tested them immediately. Spine leeches, Vain worms, a young Catachan devil that thought they looked like easy prey. He stood on the old battlefield, where alien corpses had already been consumed by the hungry earth. New growth sprouted, more aggressive than before, having tasted tyrannid genetics and incorporated what was useful. The planet itself had grown stronger from the invasion. That was the Catachan way. What didn't kill you made you deadlier. The Vox brought reports from other sectors. The Splinter fleet had bypassed 3 systems after Catachan, seeking easier prey. The regiment's stand had saved billions of lives, bought time for other worlds to prepare. In the Great War for humanity's survival, it was a small victory. But from small victories, the Imperium endured. Marcus touched his knife, feeling the blade edge. Somewhere out there, the hive mind processed the data from Catachan, updating its strategies, breeding new organisms. It would return eventually, with greater force, adapted weapons. But Catachan would be ready. The jungle never stopped growing, never stopped killing, never stopped teaching its children to be harder than anything the galaxy could throw at them. A private approached, one of the new recruits. Blood ran from parallel scratches on his face where a spore plant had caught him. "Sir, Corporal Chen says to tell you we've got movement in Sector 5. Enemy contacts." Marcus smiled. Already the jungle was testing them again. Orcs, Dark Eldar, or just the planet's wildlife deciding humans looked tasty today. It didn't matter. They would meet it as they'd met the Tyrannids, as they met every threat. With knives sharp, Lars rifles ready, and the absolute certainty that Catachan would endure. "Tell Chen I'm on my way, and Private, next time duck faster. The jungle doesn't give second chances." The recruit saluted and ran off, moving better already. He might survive after all. Marcus took one last look at the battlefield, then headed for Sector 5. There was always another fight on Catachan. That's what made it home.